So about 5 years ago, on my birthday in fact, I travelled to the end of the sea-to-sea line at Shoeburyness to take a walk all the way back along the coast through Southend as far as Benfleet. At the time, I thought that's as far as you can go around that coastline because beyond it, it is all MOD property, the Ministry of Defence. Except that's not quite true. There are some additional public footpaths by the coast, but they're not always open because it's MOD land. So today we're going to go and discover if I can walk further along the coast from Shoeburyness. I've decided though to start at Thorpe Bay station, the penultimate stop on the sea-to-sea rail network, because this is one of only 2 sea-to-sea stations that I have not used before. The other one is Leyden. We will do a Leyden walk in the future, but for now we start at Thorpe Bay. What I found intriguing about this station though is that, first off, I was the only one who got off the train. Everyone gets off at Southend to go to the beach for the day. No one gets off here to visit this beach. We're gonna do that. Secondly, it was first called Southchurch-on-Sea when it opened in 1910. But the developers of the suburb around here, which is very much an expansion of Southend, which required the need for a new station, wanted the station to be named after them. So it was renamed only 17 days later to Thorpe Bay. The bay was actually added on to the name to kind of promote the fact that we are near to the sea here. So without further ado, let's walk down to the coast. And here we are. It's a good 10-minute walk down the road from the station, but here's the beach. We're actually quite close to Southend. It feels that way. You can see the pier jutting out down there, and the tide is out. And this first section will be a repeat for me towards Shoeburyness, but luckily this is an exciting section of coastline. I do love this stretch of coastline and how far out the tide gets here. It is technically the Thames Estuary. It's debatable exactly where the River Thames ends, but a lot of people seem to agree that it is at Shoeburyness. I mean, you can look out towards the Isle of Sheppey and the Isle of Grain from this point. If it was the sea, I would kind of class it as you can't exactly see another plot of land, unless it was a different country, which at this point it definitely isn't. Although one could make a joke that Kent is a different country to Essex. Well, that's not the name of Westcliff Station, and it does seem like Thorpe Bay is the furthest one away from the coast. But you can see that we are now about to enter into Gunners Park, and the public footpath does end there at Shoeburyness. You know you're approaching Shoeburyness when you see the red flags. Now when that's flying at high mast, that does mean that the military range is in use today. That doesn't necessarily mean the footpaths will be closed, and you can check on their website to see if you actually hear any sound of artillery. That's not happening today. I wonder why birds love this tower so much. They are everywhere on it. That's quite amusing actually, just to hear them all. And I am now technically on MOD land. Do not touch any military debris, it may explode and kill you. Alright, I'll keep that in mind. So I am allowed through here in Gunners Park, but not down here on the beach. I'm forbidden from going down there. And that tide has come in really, really fast. That's surprising, but that is going to tie in later with a little story I have to tell about the deadliest path in Britain. So Gunners Park is fascinating to walk through because you come across loads of World War II relics. But of course, because it's me, the first thing we're having a look at is an old railway out onto the old barge pier, as it is known, and there are some tracks remaining down there. Now, because it's the MOD, naturally there's a lot of secrecy, but there is a rumour, which I believe, that Britain's first atomic bomb was offloaded here at the Old Barge Pier, and then it was detonated in Australia as a test under the name Operation Hurricane in 1952. Now, obviously, there's no information boards here to give me that information, so I would imagine that a lot of locals around here don't know of that. I kind of like knowing something that people who live here have no idea about in relation to the Old Barge Pier. There is actually a couple of people that have sneaked their way onto it. There's a little hole in the fence. Now here we have our first war defence structure along this section of coastline. We come across a lot of little pillboxes on my walks from time to time, but these structures are going to be much bigger than that. The tide is actually not in at this point around Shoeburyness. So the military first came to Shoeburyness in, I want to say, 1849. A lot of the old range over here though has been redeveloped. It is now just houses, but it's fantastic that a lot of structures remain along here, such as this one. Perhaps the most impressive, it is labelled as the Heavy Quick Firing Battery. I do wonder just how many pigeons are nesting in here. I can hear loads. I do wonder with structures like these whether they were ever actually used for their purpose, or were they built purely as a precaution. We also have a searchlight emplacement along here. I assume this would have been used to look out towards the sea for any potential enemy ships or planes approaching on the horizon. It's pretty cool that I can actually get to stand in here. We got another remnant here in the form of an air raid shelter. There's quite a few in this park. That's quite the fine building behind it as well. There was actually a family picnicking on top of one of them air raid shelters. How times have changed. Ah, this is fascinating. There is an open top bus service numbered the 99 which runs all the way along the coast through here, from Shoeburyness to Southend and to Leigh-on-Sea. The Butterscotch Breezer, that is a fantastic name. I think they all might have different names because I've seen different coloured buses. That is definitely a journey that I wouldn't mind taking at some point. It does amaze me just how far out the tide gets here at Shoeburyness. From looking at this angle, you would almost imagine whether the sea even exists at all. It's like I'm looking out at a world where all the water's been drained from it. That would make an interesting movie. I'm sure that premise probably exists in some format. So this is something I've not seen before in Shoeburyness. A little disused miniature railway, which you might think has something to do with the military, but I've seen arguments that it could be instead a little railway to serve what used to be a brickworks here, and you can see remnants of brick scattered around on the beach. It would have been branches of track splitting off in so many directions. This would have been a complicated little network. So I have walked as far up the beach as I'm allowed. The barracks are past this point, and this is as far as I used to think you could get along the coast. So we'll have to get around that in a moment to see if we can continue today. Look at this structure stretching out at sea, by the way. It goes on for ages to protect the military base. I wonder if it's longer than Southend Pier. Obviously that is the world's longest pleasure pier at 1.33 miles. Does that beat it? And the tide is still out at this stage, so we're going to get no sound of waves. I'm not going to get the opportunity to put my feet in the sea either. I mean, I could walk all the way out there, but I don't want to. Now, intriguingly, this place was known as Shoebury until a new town sprung up around the barracks, and it was called Shoeburyness. Although, on the front of sea-to-sea trains which terminate here, they still only say Shoebury for some reason. Excuse the interlacing, by the way. And I've noticed on C2C trains, when they are calling out all the stations that the train will stop at, it rather jarringly doesn't actually say the last station. It just says calling at Southend Central, Southend East, Thorpe Bay. And, and, and then you're waiting forever for it to say and Shoeburyness, but it never happens. I'd like to say I have recorded footage of it. My train from Barking to Upminster did. I didn't film it in time, but my train from Upminster to Shoeburyness didn't. It was cheaper to buy a ticket from Upminster, by the way, and use my Oyster to there rather than Barking. So interestingly, surprise, surprise, we have another railway line here, and this is for the MOD land. This is a military only use railway, but I'm fairly certain that it hasn't actually been used in about 10 years or so. Still looks rather well maintained though. I think the consensus is that it's cheaper for them to transfer ammunition or whatever they use it for by road nowadays and not by rail. So you could potentially argue then that this is our third disused railway of the walk. We might actually cross over these tracks again later too. So on the walk to try and find the coast once again, I am actually leaving the city of Southend behind. I'm entering the Rochford District Council as I head towards Great Wakering. That's a really battered in sign. You can tell that the Southend one is a lot newer because it only became a city in the last few years. So you can see that we are indeed on the England coast path still. I'm surprised it's pointing me in that direction because surely it would be back down there if I'm following the military grounds perimeter. I'm going to go this way anyways because I plan on coming out along here once I'm done, if I can even reach it in the first place. I thought for a moment that maybe it's because there's no pavement, which is why the England coast path doesn't come this way, but there is. I just couldn't see it because this bit was all overgrown. This is the only thing about trying to access these coastal footpaths, is that they are quite a while away. You got quite the long road walk to get there. Okay, and now the pavement runs out just as you reach this house. It's not the busiest road in the world though, so should be okay. Okay, the moment of truth will be coming soon. I can still walk around the perimeter here, but at some point we will find out whether I am blocked from re-entering or not. Okay, it looks like I might have my answer. It is actually closed today. You can see right of way, it is possible, but that looks pretty definitive to me. Now the thing is, I could have actually rung up this morning to see if the footpath was going to be open, but I didn't because I kind of like the idea of just figuring it out for myself whilst I got here. I'm not disappointed because part of me expected this. I think you'll have better luck on a weekend. It's a Monday today. I was coming out here no matter what today anyways, even if I knew in advance that the footpath would be closed. But this means that we can come back another time, and it would have been too long today to walk even more of the coast up towards a bridge over to Foulness Island. I wouldn't have gone that far. Now we can when we come back, because I won't do the section between Thorpe Bay and Shoeburyness. It is today, by the way, my aunt's birthday, and she is actually staying in Southend for a couple of nights. So I was going to jump off the train on the way home and kind of surprise her this evening, but I might be able to do that a little bit earlier now. We'll carry on with the rest of the walk what it was going to be once I came back off the MOD land, because there is still a little bit to see for the remainder of the walk back to Shoeburyness. And I mean, this is not a bad alternative to take. I'm still beside the MOD perimeter, This is a nice path, and I wouldn't have walked it otherwise on this walk, or if I did come back one day and walk more of the coast here. So this is where I would have exited the lands from. I was just trying to work out whether maybe I could still go down to it from this angle. The barriers are all down though, so I doubt it. I'm actually surprised to find that bus terminates right outside. Okay, so the England coast path doesn't take any risks. Even though there is technically a footpath in the MOD land, it doesn't take it because evidently, as we've seen today, it's not always open. So I could take it up in this direction, which will be towards that bridge over to Foulness Island, which I wouldn't have seen today anyways. So I am happy to come back and give all that a go another time. So even though we haven't seen it today, I feel like I should still talk about Britain's deadliest footpath, because I did mention it earlier. It is known as the Broomway, and it is 6 miles long, and it runs out at sea. That's why it's so dangerous. You can only really walk it at low tide, and considering the tide has been out all day so far since I've been here, it would have been stupid for me to have attempted, because the tide will come in, it will wash me away, drown me, I'll get stuck in quicksand. I wouldn't even know really exactly where to go because you'll lose your bearings out there. So if you're disappointed that I wasn't going to walk the Broomway, you're probably more disappointed that I didn't even get to see it today. It's reported that around 100 people have lost their lives on the Broomway, and it used to be the only way in or out of Foulness Island because it is MOD land. Despite that, in the last census, 158 people still live there, although there's really not much on the island anymore. They built a bridge over to it in 1922, so at least there's a safer way out now. The Broomway kind of fell into a decline since the bridge opened because it was waymarked with brooms, so you would know where the path was, but they've kind of been eroded away over the years because there's not much point taking that anymore. Unless you want to, of course, which I wouldn't have by myself. The only way I would really suggest doing it is if you have a tour guide, which that can happen. I would be interested in doing that, to be honest. And because it is a public footpath, as long as you can get to it, which I couldn't, you can walk it anytime you like, which means you can access Foulness Island. You just can't really explore it because it is still MOD land, and the only way back is to walk all the way back along the Broomway again. Saying that though, I think the first Sunday of every summer month there is a heritage centre on Foulness Island which you can go to. Any other time you go to that bridge, you're getting sent away if you live there. It is definitely one of the strangest, most uncanniest of places in this country. It's just such a bizarre thing that it exists. I look forward to coming back one day and properly getting to see it. I'll ring up in advance next time to make sure the footpath is open. So I guess we'll carry on with the walk and we'll start to loop back around to Shoeburyness by passing through Great Wakering. I'm fairly certain that the access point to the Broomway is actually known as Wakering Stairs. Great Wakering seems to be a rather nice little place. I think if I come back to Shoebury, I'm calling it that now rather than putting Ness at the end, and I do the longer coast walk around the Broomway and the Foulness Island Bridge, I'll probably still end up looping back to here. So it might not be the only time I'll come here in my life. And there we go, I've managed to now walk the England coast path back from Great Wakering. Let's not go in that direction again, although the irony is that the footpath would be open now, wouldn't it? I got to repeat a little road section back towards Shoeburyness, but then we can diversify a little bit at the end. So I thought I would just visit some local green spaces before ending my walk back at Shoeburyness, such as Friars Park here, which feels a lot more rural than I thought. I thought it would kind of have the vibe of a recreation ground. And of course, I can't not do a quick explore of Shoeburyness Park whilst in the area as well. This is a different type of maze I've not seen before. I wonder if it's just as simple as walking around or whether there will actually be dead ends. I mean, if I get stuck, I can very easily get into the middle. Let's give it a go. Okay, there's a way in here. So I guess I do have, that looks like a dead end. I guess I do have options. Okay, well that's a dead end. Okay, I think it could be as simple. Yeah, that's a dead end. Right, I think it's quite simple. Ooh, actually, that's a dead end here. Go around it, and yeah, you're in the middle. I still had fun doing that, even though it's really easy. We'll just take the sneaky shortcut route back out there. Oh, I called it Shoeburyness Park because I'm fairly certain it said that on the map, but this sign's calling it Shoebury. It's using the historical name. Well, we're definitely nearing the station. Road 30. There is a heck of a lot of sidings here at Shoeburyness. I thought it would be interesting to take a footbridge over the train care depot here, literally just before you reach Shoeburyness station. Oh, I might have just missed that train. Well, we've made it to the end of the line at Shoeburyness station, and snaking its way just behind the station is the military-only railway. I think I'll be safe. I don't think there'll be any trains anytime soon. Let's not go all the way down and follow the military tracks again. You know what? I rate them for actually cutting off the 10-minute walking distance diameter. I'm surprised they didn't just show it going right into the ocean. Well, there we go. I may not have visited the Broomway, but we can always come back another time. I at least ticked off Thorpe Bay station. We at least saw some ruined defence structures on the coast at Shoeburyness, and I got some nice countryside paths in as well. I'm looking forward to now visiting Southend for the evening. I really like the pink of sea to sea, by the way. Don't know what it is about it. Maybe it reminds me of Thameslink pink back in the day. I feel like I've visited quite a few end of the lines recently. Uckfield, Skegness, and now Shoeburyness. It's because a lot of the termini station I don't actually have a photo of. There's other ones like Southminster and Clacton, which I'm missing photos of as well, so there'll be future walks coming up soon. Oh, they're also in Essex. There's more Essex walks coming. Well, this is what was missing earlier from Shoeburyness. Of course, the tide is in now that I'm at Southend. I've actually ended up staying here long enough that the tide's gone out again. It's getting dark. I thought I'm going to take the walk up to Westcliff station instead of Southend, just for the sake of it, really. I only used Westcliff station once before. I want to say 3 years ago. I literally only just made the train, so I never really got a good look at the station. I like that there's a remnant of the London, Tilbury and Southend Railway up there, the original railway down these parts. Then it was extended through to Shoeburyness in 1884. Well, I've made it to Westcliff station, and I feel like I'm going to be here for a while. I don't know what's giving me that idea. Better get comfortable then. Maybe I should go back to where my aunt's staying in a hotel. Wow, we've had a lot of Queen Elizabeths in our time.